What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, another episode of The Ballroom. Before this episode, I've had beat writers. I've had James Edwards of The Athletic. I've had Vince Ellis, who was the Free Press beat writer, but now he's over at Platinum Detroit, working for the Pistons themselves. And, you know, I want to keep this going. I want everyone, watch that. I want everybody to think that this is, a laid back. This isn't, some serious, you got to dress up or, we're taking everything seriously or everything. I just want to have fun with this, have a bunch of guests on here that will be fun and have all kinds of different perspectives. So today we don't have a writer on, we don't have a coach on, we have no owner on. We have a friend of mine since high school, my man Steven Lloyd. He is a basketball player. He, as you can see on the screen, he broke the record at our high school, Chippewa Valley High School, for most points for a career on varsity. He is currently a Grand Valley State, correct? Grand Valley State college basketball player. He has one more season left as a basketball player there. So, Steve, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate you having me, cool.
So, you know, me and Steve just got into an altercation, honestly. We just got into an altercation last week, I believe it was, on Snapchat, because Steve wanted to tell this story of us back on varsity. And as you're looking on the screen, you can see a picture of us all on the bench. I'm number 14, Steve. I believe you're 25 on that bench.
Yep.
Steve, go ahead and tell them this. Just give them a quick recap of what this story is that you went and shared on his Snapchat, everybody. He went on his Snapchat and made sure to tell everybody about this. Go ahead, Steve. Share it for everybody.
Everybody. Yeah, so long story short, we had a game on the road against Cousino High School. And the game was winding down. I'm at the free throw line shooting 2 free throws. I think we're up 2 at the time. All I got to do is make these 2 free throws. We got the game in the bag. I go up there and brick both of them. So then their point guard comes down, last second shot, not probably right at half court, drains it. We lose the game by 1. And they never, everybody, from my teammates to my friends, they never let me forget this moment ever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Steve went on after that to this Snapchat story he made was a good it was a good 30 snaps worth of stories.
So he
went on to try to blame me. He singled out me because I'm gonna let you guys know in the third quarter of that game, I didn't have a very good season for varsity ever with our head coach. Me and our head coach did not like each other at all. So I went from starting some games to not playing at all some games to playing a little bit one game and then not playing at all. It was a rocky relationship. So in the third quarter of that game, in the third quarter of that game we were up 15, I believe, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go ahead and sub five straight bench players. We're going to sub all these guys into one." And, I would take that as disrespect. He put me out there with, what he considered the last 5 players in the rotation. So I told our friend Jalen, I told our friend Dayon, who was our manager, I told literally all of our friends on the bench, when I get in here, I'm trolling. When I get in here, I'm going to throw this game. So when I got in this game, you can ask Steve, you can ask everybody. I started doing my little walk that I do. I went out there, I threw.
I hate it.
I threw. So that part did happen. I did throw in that third quarter, but we were still in a position to win, and we would have won if Steve made his free throw, so I refuse to take any blame for it.
You guys do not believe that. We would have won the game easy, but he decided he wanted to troll everybody and play crap and not do a single thing right.
If the coach wanted to treat me a little bit better, maybe we would have got a little better performance out of me there. But
Fair enough.
I just want to go ahead and talk about that real quick because, it was funny and it was honestly a good laugh that I think me and Steve both needed during this quarantine, which is a good segue to talk about quarantine a little bit. Steve, I talked to you a little bit about this before we went on. So before every episode or right at the beginning of every episode, I like to ask my guests about quarantine, how it's affecting them. Because, I want to make sure I say, this is serious. I hope everybody's staying safe and that we should be taking this serious. So I like to get different points of view of how it's affecting different people. I asked some writers about it, how it's affecting their schedule. Steve, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I played with Steve all throughout high school. Steve has one of the best work ethics I've ever seen in any sport. I've been trying to get my other friend on here, Deontay. He's a football player up in Northern Michigan, but he's playing around too much. But even Tay, Steve has like the best work ethic I've ever seen. So I know that Steve is probably like itching to get some work in on basketball. So Steve, tell us how that's affecting this whole quarantine's affecting you now with trying to get some work in. What you're doing now to like kind of stay in fit. I know you got one season left at your college.
Yeah. Mostly, obviously, we can't get into any gyms and play, so I've just been going to parks and elementary schools nearby and try to shoot there, at least when the weather's decent, not too cold or it's like raining on me. And then I have a decent little weight system in my basement here at my mom's house, so I use that and got a little pull-up bar, and I just kind of make it work. So that's best I got.
Well, I know in high school you had that basketball room outside your house. You still got that?
No, my mom got rid of it when I moved away to college, so don't have it anymore. But at least I got some parks nearby, so it's really not that big of a deal. But no, I don't have it in the driveway anymore.
Sucks. But I figured that you'd be going to like parks trying to get some work in. I know that a lot of parks took down their rims, have like yellow tapes all around, and like took down the rims and the nets. So that's why I was wondering how exactly you're getting work in. But it doesn't shock me at all that you're still finding ways to get work in. Like I said, Steve has like, seriously, I'm not even trolling. He has some of the best work ethic I've ever seen. I remember back, I guess we can talk about this a little bit now. We can move to the next topic, your high school success. I remember coming in high school. Now, I love basketball. I've loved it my whole life. Obviously, I'm not nowhere near as good as Steven Lloyd. But coming into varsity, Steve was a 4-year varsity player, so I played JV, and I was a monster on JV. I thought I was a demon. But heading into my first year on varsity the next year, Steve kind of helped me and took me under his wing and like I started learning a lot from Steve. I remember I used to come in. Steve used to ask me, "Do you want to go in before school?" Like at like 5:30, he used to go, and then after practice he'd be there, and then the coach would give him the keys to the gym himself, so Steve could get in by himself. He wouldn't even need no advisement. So Steve, obviously, like it says on the screen, you broke the record for most points all time at Chippewa, scored as a varsity player. Can I tell us, like, how much work did you have to put in? Do you feel like that your work paid off in that? Like, I know I guess it's like 4 years ago now. That's crazy, but how much work did you put in? Do you feel like it paid off? Do you feel proud of that? What you did in high school? Just give us a little backstory on what went on in your high school career, how you got to that point.
Yeah. I guess for me, I didn't really realize how much I was working at it until people started telling me that. I was just doing it because I enjoyed it, and it was just a way for me to have fun, and that's just kind of how I always was wired. And when I started realizing what kind of like after freshman year of high school, I think my work ethic kind of went to the next level because I was scared that other people were outworking me. It didn't matter who it was. If I saw somebody else that was in the gym and I wasn't there, I was scared that he's going to surpass me at some point because he's working out while I'm sitting down at the house. So I feel like all that kind of contributed to me to the successes that I ended up having at Chippewa, but definitely couldn't do it without you guys, because especially we used to play for hours on hours, go over gym. We would play one-on-one forever. That was so much fun. And yeah, that definitely made me better as a player. So yeah, Steve.
Now I am going to in the description. I'll put some of Steve's highlights from high school, because like me and him were talking about this before this too. He has like a whole playlist like made by somebody of his high school highlights. So like I don't know how that happened. And real quick, everybody, I know that my camera keeps going in. I have to keep fixing it. I apologize for that, but. Anyways, what I was saying was, I remember we went to Michigan State, I believe before our senior year in the summer for like a camp. Steve, I remember our first game had like 30-something points in this first like summer camp game, and Tom Izzo was like watching, and our coach told us that Tom Izzo was watching Steve. And then after that game, we went up and met Tom Izzo, and then we walked through his office. We walked through like the entire like Michigan State setup and everything. So That man Steve was legit. Don't let this little calm demeanor by Steve hold you up. Steve got on that court, and the crazy thing is, and I know Steve will appreciate this, but Steve is legit our Kobe from high school. As you can tell, Kobe was a major influence on Steve. Me and Steve talked about it a little bit after the sudden and depressing passing of him and his daughter. But Kobe had a big impact on Steve, I would say. Steve, would you say that's correct?
Yeah. When he passed away, it felt like I lost a family member. I was distraught for some time.
Yes,
without a doubt.
Yes, so
yeah.
Obviously, Kobe had a big impact on Steve, and you can ask anybody that went to our high school or anybody who watched Steve from outside our high school, like the scouts that came, or other teams that came, or other players that came. Steve legit was Kobe. He literally, if you watched him play, everything he did was like Kobe, and even that little statement he said just now about his work ethic, how he was scared someone else's work. Who do you think that sounds like? That is out the mouth of Kobe Bryant. So that Steve was legit in high school. Don't let this little calm demeanor hold you guys up. He was a demon in high school. I can't hold him. So I'll put like a link to his highlights in the description if you guys don't believe it. You guys want to see it? I'll put that down there below. So moving on, we can talk about we can be done with the college, the high school stuff. Let's move on to your college. You're currently a player at Grand Valley State. Take us through first. Let's talk about how you went about choosing where you want to go to college. Because I was just watching our senior year preview. Because our little Mac Red division, we have they would come to our schools and interview, and they do their own little show and little previews of each team.
Yeah.
So I was just watching this, and Coach Voss was very high of Steve, and still highly of Steve, talking about he believes Steve can go here, he can go there. And I know Steve had a lot of places he could have gone to. Steve, take us through how you went about choosing where you wanted to go, the process that is, and how you came to that decision.
Yeah, especially during the summer before senior year and during senior year, I started really feeling how hard the recruiting aspect was and how to get schools' attention. And I started realizing I'm really not getting that many schools' attention at all. I think I had Grand Valley offer me, I had Davenport offer me, and then Macomb Community College. And at that time, I can't lie, I was pretty depressed because I had worked so hard. I wanted to go D1, but it just didn't seem like it was going to work out. So, but I weighed my options, and at the end of the day, I'm like, Grand Valley is probably the best fit for me. So I'm just going to go that route and make the most out of my opportunity.
So, like you said, at least from everybody, all your friends and all your teammates, and I know we went against some real hard competition right across the street from us in Dakota. They had Jermaine Jackson Jr. Mm-hmm. So I believe that everybody was expecting Steve. This is cool to hear from Steve, in my opinion, from my point of view, because we all expected Steve to be getting tons of offers, and I wanted to kind of shed light. So the reason why I have these college players, my friends on here who are college players, because I want to show I give perspective from a writer point of view. I plan on getting coaches on here at some point, maybe my old high school coach, or if I can get a different college coach or something. But I wanted to give a perspective of someone who is being recruited, a college player who plays in this and tells you about how hard it is. All that kind of stuff. So, Steve, with the recruitment, I know you said that you weren't getting what you thought you would get, but how did it feel to at least to just, how does that happen? How does the recruitment from just the teams that you said try recruiting you, how does that go about it? Do they call you? Do they text you? They come to see you? How does that all work?
Yeah, basically when how I started getting recruited by schools, I went to, it was a showcase of just a bunch of some of the best players in the state at the time. And I can't remember the name of that showcase, but yeah, there was college coaches from all over the Midwest that were there. And so they got to see me play, and I was able to talk to a few of them, and then a couple of them showed interest, and that's kind of how it went. And then once they start showing interest, they kind of follow you throughout whatever you're doing through AAU. They'll probably show up to a tournament here and there. They'll come to some of your high school games. And hopefully along the way you try to get some more coaches' attention. But that's basically how it goes, pretty much for the process.
All
Yeah.
right, so we can go ahead and head to the next topic now. So the next thing I wanted to ask Steve about was, so like we said, Steve was an amazing, like out of this world high school player. He's probably the best not probably, he's probably the best player ever at Chippewa Valley. So Steve, how did you redshirted your first year at Grand Valley State, right? So talk to us about, obviously you did that for what you believe was the best of your own career at that time. So tell us a little bit about how you go from, how did it hit you going from being the superstar high school player? Because me and my friend Joe, who have this podcast, and I talk about it a lot in some of my videos and some of my analysis of these NBA players. A lot of these players, a lot of the downfalls of these players is they're superstars in high school. They're superstars in college. They're used to having the ball in their hands. They're used to being the star and the one who ISOs, blah, blah, blah. But then they get to a certain level, and that doesn't work for them anymore. And now, instead of adjusting to that type of play, they just flame out because they refuse to adjust to that type of play. So how does it how did it feel going from the high school superstar that you were, and then getting to college and you deciding that you have to redshirt your first year in order to be like the best you can be down the line?
It was definitely hard. The whole transition from the high school game to college game was pretty difficult for me. It took me probably most of my all of my redshirt year for sure, and then most of my technical freshman year on the court. I was still trying to figure out this game because it was so different from what we did in high school. Everything had a system. Everything was technical. You weren't just in a place for no reason. You're there for a purpose. And if you're a foot off, you might mess up the whole thing. So it was more so trying to first figure out the pace of the game, which is completely different from what high school is. And then also trying to find your role on the team without having the ball in your hands all the time, especially moving without the ball. That was a big learning curve for me because during high school, the ball was just in my hands. So I had to learn a whole nother skill set for me. And I'm still working on that to this day. So yeah, the biggest transition is just trying to kind of redefine your game in terms of maybe not eliminating what you're good at, but expanding on it. Essentially.
So, like we've said, I've pointed out throughout this entire thing, Steve was a great offensive player in high school. He broke the record. So Steve, let me ask you this: which one was your biggest adjustment right out the gate? And even if you want to say till now, if that's how it affects you now, which one was a bigger adjustment for you, on offense adjusting or adjusting to the playing defense? So
defense, without a doubt.
Why is that?
Everything just felt like it was moving so fast. When I first got there, I was like, everybody is going 100 miles an hour, it feels like, compared to high school. And your defensive assignments were much more difficult because everybody can play. There's no such thing as he's a scrub, he's not gonna do anything. Everybody can hoop. And the communication level is heightened to something that high school can't even come close to. Everything is precise. You're communicating everything that you do. So that's a difficult aspect. And a lot of people never click to it. And sometimes that's their downfall because they can't get the defensive side of the game together.
So that was, I like hearing that because, like I said, I talk about this a lot on my podcast and my analysis of NBA players, is that, like Steve said, some players it just doesn't click. They can have all the talent in the world, which is why talent doesn't always mean you're a better player than player X. If it doesn't click for you and you're not going to adjust, that is a lot. I'll throw this example out. I always say this example. You guys all are probably tired of hearing it, but Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson had a ton of talent coming out of college. He was probably one of the best. I saw a couple weeks ago, he was ranked as the best California high school player ever. So he had a lot of talent coming out of high school, a lot of talent coming out of college, but the problem with Stanley was just he couldn't adjust to playing off ball. He was used to having the ball in his hands, and he wasn't good enough at that time as an NBA player to have the ball in your hands. So a lot of times with these players, and it goes all the way to NBA, it goes to college, and so it goes, if you can't adjust, you just flame out. And I know Steve, I know for a fact, just from watching Steve and seeing him redshirt his first year, I knew that had to have been hard on Steve because of the person I know Steve to be. So I really that is really cool to hear. I hope that like gives every one of you guys perspective on like how hard it is to even play at the level Steve's playing at. A lot of these people, there's a lot of people that talk about, this person only played D3. This person only played D2. Oh, they went to this school. They went to that school. These players who play at these schools, I don't care if they play at D3, D2, I don't care what school they play. I promise you would not be able to hang with them if you played at that level.
I'm telling you.
Like Steve said.
It's so true.
Like Steve said, there is no, like, in high school when you could see that player and like, oh, he's the weakest link. We can just, like, get by him. All the players are on the same level field. So it's a lot harder to do what they're trying to do out there. So I appreciate Steve being honest and sharing that perspective with us here. So next thing we can talk about, Steve, is I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. What player do you try to resemble? I'm assuming you're going to say Kobe. So we can go ahead and just talk about why you try to resemble Kobe, what it was that made you. So, like, for example, the first player I ever saw play was Rip Hamilton when I was younger. Obviously, I don't think I played like Rip very much, but he was the first player that hit me that I first started watching, but that wasn't the player I started idolizing and resembling my game after. It was Derrick Rose back in, like, I believe, like, 8th grade. I saw Derrick, and that's just how I started wanting to play. I tried to resemble my game after Derrick. So, not necessarily the player you first laid your eyes on or, like, first hit you, but what player was it? And it might have been Kobe that you first started watching. Who knows? Steve's a crazy man like that. So, Steve's crazy. Yeah. So, but what's the player that you hit, like, man, I want to play like that guy? And how did you go about hitting, trying to get to that guy's level? So you saw that guy, that's the player you want to be like, and then how did you go about doing that?
I want to say probably the first guy was probably Chauncey at the time that really like sparked the flame for me liking basketball, obviously because he was in Detroit and I was like 6 years old when they won the first championship. Mm-hmm. So that's when I was like, whoa, that kind of just made me excited about trying the sport out, and I ended up liking it and kind of stuck with it. And as I became more of a student of the game, that's how I came into guys like Kobe and D Wade. I followed a lot. And so he just kind of expanded from there, but obviously I always stuck with Kobe the whole way.
So as you talked about a little bit your work ethic in high school, we talked about it. What did you do to resemble Kobe's game? Like, I know, like, for the player, like, not everybody out here who's watching this obviously has ever seen you play. I know already. I already know, like, the things that you do that are like Kobe. I know the footwork. I know the post fadeaways that you do. But explain this for everybody out there who's never seen you play, to try to give them an insight to the kind of impact Kobe had on a player, not just NBA players, but like players like you growing up idolizing him, and what you went, and secondly, what you like, how you went about it. Like, what did you do in the gym? Hello,
sorry,
tell your mother I said hello.
Cool says hi, Mom.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Hi.
Hello.
So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We're doing a podcast.
Okay. Well, tell him I said hi. So good to see him.
He can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, to just talk about why, like, the kind of impact he had on a player like you growing up, and like I said, not everybody's seen you play, so try to give as much insight as to how you went about that.
I probably. You talking about like what I looked at with Kobe the most?
Yeah, try to give everybody insight, because like I said, I've seen you play. I know like how you I know the footwork and everything. I know how you did it. So like, what did you do in the gym when you were by yourself? Like, what was it that you said? Let me do this. This is gonna help me reach the heights that Kobe did. This is what's gonna help me play like Kobe. The footwork, blah blah. What did you do in the gym by yourself that like helped you get to this point?
Probably footwork, number one. But without a doubt, I would watch his footwork over and over, and it would amaze me how he could come up with such combinations of pivoting without ever traveling, and it just blew my mind. So I was like, I'm just gonna try to imitate that over and over again. And that's still footwork that I use to this day. And obviously, I used it a lot, especially in high school, but I still try to implement it in my game today as well. So, yeah, footwork was definitely number one. And then probably his ability to make difficult shots or shots from interesting angles, especially using the glass when you're either on one of the wings or the side area. I tried to really focus on that, especially when doing some kind of post fadeaway or whatnot. I realized that the shot's a lot easier if I just use the glass like he does. So yeah, footwork was definitely number one. And then looking at how he made such difficult shots at those interesting angles.
So that doesn't shock me, and because like I said, I've played with Steve for a long time. But like I said, I'm gonna put his highlights down below in the description. When you guys watch him, you'll see what he's talking about. If there's anybody out there who is in high school watching, or anybody just trying to get better at playing basketball and like has their sights like aimed high, this is the type of work ethic you need to display. Like you hear Steve talking, like you hear players say or people say, "Oh, I want to be good at basketball. I want to do this." Like I'll use myself as an example. I always wanted to be good at playing basketball. Actually, let me not troll myself. I think I'm pretty good at playing basketball. But like according to Steve's level, if you want to get to Steve's level, like you hear that type of stuff. He was watching film of Kobe. He's talking about how he used to watch Kobe. Like this is like him growing up. Steve's a middle schooler. He's talking about he's watching Kobe film. He's watching his footwork. He's naming stuff like the glass from certain angles. He's like talking about difficult shots from certain angles, certain spots of the floor. Like that's stuff you don't see like players who are trying to get to their heights talk about. So anybody who's trying to I think Steve is a good role model for that. For the work ethic, specifically the work ethic, the kind of things you have to put in, the kind of things you have to watch, all that stuff. So that is actually one of the main reasons I wanted to get Steve on here and interview Steve, because one, he's my boy, and why go get someone else who exhibits work ethic when I have a boy who does it just as well. So let's get him on here. But also he's one of the players that I feel like can do a lot for anybody who's watching. Show you the type of work ethic you have to put in, type of work you need to put in if you want to get anywhere, not just basketball, but just like anywhere in your career. So one of the main reasons I wanted to get Steve on here. So Steve, you're also, we can move on to the next topic, but Steve, you're also, like I said, you're in Grand Valley State. You're in your final year, this upcoming year, correct? This is your last year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yep.
So what do you expect for yourself this season? Like we've said, you went through high school, you dominated. You had to redshirt your first year, get adjusted. You've talked about how it was a bit of an adjustment that you have to get through. It's hard. But what do you expect for yourself, your final season, and what do you think? Actually, you know what? Two-part question. First, what do you think you have gotten better at the most throughout your college career so far? Like, what is it that you believe college made you work on the most and you had to improve the most? And second, what do you expect for yourself now this upcoming season?
Yeah, so I guess what have I improved on the most? I would definitely say defense, without a doubt, to where defense is almost some guys could say that was probably my strongest skill set now is defense more than anything else. Because I remember my freshman year, I had a teammate named Denzel Wright. He is the best one-on-one player I have ever played against in my life. He had every move in his bag. He could do anything, shoot from anywhere. He was just unstoppable. And we used to play one-on-one after practice for like 2 hours. And he got my defense so much better than it ever was in my life. And I've just been building on it since then. And probably second is decision-making. I feel like in the college game, you have to make good decisions. Otherwise, you're not going to play. And I know all of my life, I've been turnover prone, essentially. Like I always have gotten a good amount of turnovers. And coming to college, they're like, no, you got to nip that in the bud. You're not going to be turning the ball over 3-4 times a game. We can't have that. And so that really motivated me to work on my mental aspect of the game and kind of slowing down on some of the decisions that I make, and so that I can make better ones. So those are probably the two biggest things that I've improved on since I've been in college, and I guess my expectations for this upcoming year, I try not to like try to or try to make like set in stone goals for myself, because then I feel like when the train actually like gets moving with the season, I get caught up in what I was trying to do so badly that I end up kind of hurting myself in general. But I guess the biggest goal for me is just to give it everything I have. It's my last go around in college, so at least just put in as much effort as I can, try to help the team as much as I can. And I know if I focus on helping my teammates, helping the coaches or wherever, and helping the team as a collective, that I know I'm going to do well individually. So, yeah.
So, after, like you said, this is your last year. Do you have any plans after this year to do anything basketball related? Or is this your final run? Is this it for your Steven Lloyd? Or are you still thinking about doing anything or pursuing a potential, like, anything afterwards playing basketball?
Mm-hmm. I would still like to. Yeah, I would still like to pursue some kind of opportunity afterwards, because especially today's day and age, there's so many opportunities everywhere that you never know what's going to show up to your doorstep. Guys that are on lower levels than me that have opportunities, and you never know. You just never know what could happen or who's watching. So I always have an open mind. I'm like, hey, if there's an opportunity there, I might as well go after it. And if there isn't one, then I'm like, well, I guess that just wasn't meant to be for me. And then I'll fall back on my plan B, which is my education, and work from there. But yeah, I'm always having an open mindset. And I think about it often. Like, I still want to strive for this. So I'm not going to stop now until that day comes where it's like, okay, it's time to hang it up.
Okay, so is that is that even overseas? Would you consider that, if that ever came up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely consider that. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to see where your head was with that, because I know a few people who I don't know them personally, but my fiance Megan, she is friends with some people who have G League players and also overseas player. One of the main ones I know of because of her friendship is Tucker Heyman, I believe his name is. He played for the G League with the Spurs, and now is overseas playing in, I believe like the Middle East, somewhere around there. But my point is just that, he kept going at it, and I've been a little bit watching from afar. He's went from G League. He was a monster in college, monster in high school, went from the G League to overseas. So my point is just, wanted to see if you still wanted to do that kind of thing, because I know there's opportunities that show themselves that you may not see right now. I just want to see if you still had that in your plans moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I think this might be the last thing we talk about, unless we didn't plan on talking about all of this, everybody. We had like a set little thing, like a little list we want to talk about, but some things we just like, it pops up and we just gotta talk about it. So the last thing we have put down that we want to talk about is, Steve, have you been watching the Last Dance Michael Jordan documentary?
Yep,
absolutely, I knew it. So
yep.
Steve being obviously a big Kobe guy, where do you think Kobe got his stuff from? MJ. So obviously that leads Steve to also be, interested in MJ. So we can kind of take it step by step a little bit if you want. So what do you think? Okay, so first let's get your overall thoughts on it. What do you think about the overall documentary so far, after I believe yesterday was episode 3 and 4? What's your overall thoughts on the documentary?
I think, like everybody else, I think it's great. It's cool to see all the behind the scenes stuff that nobody ever knew about that was going on. Like the story of Dennis Rodman just leaving the team it was supposed to be 48 hours, but he really didn't. He just went to Vegas. Like, I never knew about any of that. And it's cool to see all the actual interactions between the entire team and the coaches, and like Jerry Krause, Jerry Reinsdorf, and all of them, and how it actually was, instead of from the perspective that we usually get. So yeah, I'm excited to see the rest.
Yeah, so I'm extremely excited to see the rest. And even so, just to throw myself out there now, We've talked about Steve, the basketball player. We've had his perspective, but I'm supposed to be the writer here. I'm supposed to be I'm the writer. I'm the basketball guy, the person who analyzes the game, knows about the game, all that stuff. This is supposed to be my field. I have no idea about any of this stuff that's happened with the Bulls that they've shown so far. I had no idea about their GM just completely throwing this out into the trash.
Destroyed.
I had no idea.
Destroyed the team.
I legit have had no idea about any of this stuff that's happened. And I'm supposed to be the writer. I'm supposed to be the guy who knows all about this stuff. I legit have had no idea about any of the stuff that's happened. And I tell you this, from a guy who I'm one of the people who believe Michael Jordan's the greatest. There's no competition with it. I'm one of those guys. And for me, this has been amazing to watch. This is for real has been like, thank God they did this because of the time we're in, and they upped it to now because nobody had anything to watch or anything to do. This for real has been like, I'm itching. I can't wait till the next week's episode to come out.
I know,
because this has been amazing to watch. So I guess
this has been great.
So I guess the next thing I can ask you about it is what's the favorite thing you've seen so far about it? You've mentioned Dennis Rodman's little Vegas heist, I guess, but what's your favorite thing you've seen so far, or learned so far about the Bulls dynasty?
I guess the one thing that I've learned is that, especially in that 97-98 season, they had a lot more ups and downs, and like big ups and downs that I ever knew of. Like I didn't even realize that Scottie was hurt like during basically the first half of the season. I didn't realize that that's how they decided they wanted Phil Jackson to leave. They were just going to sign him to 1 year and you're gone after that. I didn't realize that's how all of that went down. But yeah, Dennis Rodman is definitely my favorite part, though. Going back to seeing from his childhood story to how he developed in Detroit, and then how he started pretty much going crazy when he got to the Spurs, and then it continued with Chicago. That was crazy exciting.
Yeah, so this thing has like so many different like angles that it's taken so far. I've seen some people, even though a lot of people have been saying it's great, I've seen some people complain a little bit about how they go from like 1985 to 96 to 92 to 97 to like jumping around a little bit in the timeline. But I personally love it. It's like giving so many different angles of like everything that's going on. I love it. So I guess the next thing I can ask is, you know what? Actually, let me ask this real quick because this has been a hot topic. So obviously, I'm a part of. I mean, it's not like a group that you join, but like I'm heavily involved in Pistons Twitter, and a lot of the worry about going to last night's episodes for Pistons fans and people within Pistons Twitter was, oh, the bad boys are going to be portrayed as this and that because it's a Jordan documentary, so now we're just going to get only his side, blah, blah, all that stuff. After it, I believe that they did a pretty good job of giving the bad boys a fair shake and giving them credit, but there is one thing that is still making waves today, and it's probably going to make waves the rest of the week, because Isaiah Thomas says some pretty interesting things today on First Take. But what do you think about the walking off the court, not shaking hands? What do you think about that?
They definitely should have shook their hands, but I feel like it's more of a big deal. It's more of a deal than it really needs to be.
So,
because like when they mentioned Boston did the same thing, but we never talk about it. So how come it's just because of Detroit that they decide they want to keep bringing it up every single time? I feel like they want to bring it up just because of the whole bad boys aura that the whole team had, and Boston never really had that, so it didn't really seem like much when they did it. So I didn't really care that much, but if it were me in the situation, I definitely would have shaken their hands.
Yeah, so I said on Twitter that if a team just said like that to me, we might have a scratch in the locker room.
I'd be mad. If I was Chicago, I'd
especially. So that was my first thought. So like watching it live, especially how they show that Michael shook their hands in 89 and 90 after the loss, and then one of the craziest things I think I've seen was the fact they did a post game for Michael on the court after he lost. They made him do a post-game interview on the court. He lost. That's insane. I've never seen something like that.
I would not do that.
So the fact that he did that, shook their hands, and then the next year he finally beats them. Then they walk off the court. My first thing was, man, I'm a Detroit guy, but that was some weak sauce, and I probably would have had this crap. However, Steve, today Isaiah Thomas said some things on First Take and provided some context on the situation that I didn't know about. So apparently after Game 3, they might have said this during the documentary. I might have missed it. But after Game 3, the Bulls up 3-0. Michael Jordan calls the Pistons unworthy champions and that they're not good for the game of basketball and that they're not real champions. So Isaiah Thomas says that's what led to them walking off the court, that they felt disrespected. That because he hadn't won a championship yet, and he's over here calling them someone who hasn't won a championship yet, that they're not worthy champions, and that's why they walked off the court. And honestly, for everybody who hasn't seen it yet, I think everybody should go see what Isaiah Thomas had to say today on First Take, because he was ready for all the smoke. I tried recording it and tweeting it, but he was getting pissed. So like he provided a different context to it. So now I kind of am like, I don't know if I would want to shake their hands either. I don't know if I would want to shake hands with something like that either. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like if everything that Isaiah was saying was true, I wouldn't want to shake their hands either, because you don't need to make that kind of comment. We've won 2 championships back to back. What do you mean we're not worthy champions? That doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, if I was Isaiah and if I was in his shoes, I would be pretty pissed about that too, and I wouldn't feel like shaking his hand either.
That was my second thought now after hearing that. But Isaiah like I said, everyone should go watch it, because Isaiah kind of talked about a little bit how he believes that's what left him off the dream team, and that they kept him from getting on there. But then like I'm serious. Like after he said that, Stephen A says something, then Isaiah starts getting like, you can see his whole, like he starts getting crazy about it. So I think everybody should go watch it. But so actually I want to give a little example for you, Steven. You give me what you think you would have done. So Dakota. Dakota back in high school. We already know we had all the smoke with them. In high school, we were forced to shake hands. We had to shake hands after. If we had a choice to shake hands with them. After that, let's use one specific game. The game we lost our senior year at Dakota. When Steve, in this game, everybody. In this game, I started this game, by the way, everyone. I started this game with Steve. So, what's it called? I believe it was the second half, Steven just scored, like, I forget how many points he scored, but he hit a 3 or something. He looked directly at the bench and told us while he was walking back, "I'm one bad mother." And that it was getting serious in that game. We had bad hate for them. That was our rivalry. That was our Chicago Bulls.
I hated them. I still.
Oh yeah, I hate them too. And I don't even play basketball like that no more. But what's it called? That was our Pistons Chicago Bulls thing. Steve, if we didn't have to shake hands, would you have shook hands with them?
I still would have shaken hands with them, but I'll tell you a little secret that I was given after that game.
Let's hear it. We're getting some details. We're getting juicy.
My teacher, one of my business teacher, was at that game, and that was the teacher I was closest with throughout all of high school. So we were basically like friends. She was at that game, and she was sitting behind Dakota's bench, and I think it was like maybe towards the end of the third quarter when they really started like hunkering down on me and double teaming me every time I was anywhere I was. And she said she heard the head coach of Dakota looked at the guys and they said to take me out. I was like, okay. That's what she thought. I'm like, she wouldn't lie to me about something like that. And then she said that she said something to what's his name, Toko, at some point. I don't remember what she said to him, but yeah, she was like, he said that he wanted his team to take you out. Now, if I would have known that during the game, I would not want to shake in their hands. But because I didn't know it, sure, I'll shake their hands, whatever. But I still don't like them.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would have shook their hands. I wasn't no star in the team or anything, so they probably didn't really know much about me. I know me. Benji's brother might have known me a little bit, maybe, because I had a little scrap. Like I had a little run-in with Benji, like way before then. Like in 10th grade and 9th grade, he was a little me, him, and Deontay always used to get into it on the court. But so his brother may have known me, but everybody else, I don't think they really knew me. But I wouldn't have shook their hands. 'Cause I hated Dakota. I couldn't stand them. I hated them with a passion.
No.
And
I hate everything.
yes,
about
I hated their head coach. I hated everything about what they were about. It was just I would have walked off. So like it was just me giving perspective because like when I first saw it, I was like, damn, that's kind of hoish that they did to MJ. I would have shook their hands. He shook hands with them. But then like as I started saying back more, I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I would have shook hands with Dakota. And I'm not no NBA player. That's some high school game, and I hated them.
Man,
so this is
God, I wanted to beat them so bad that game.
Yeah, that was
and we were tied after 3 quarters.
Yep.
I was like, oh, we about to get this.
Yeah, it was definitely a heartbreaking loss. It was.
They were ranked number 2 in the
Yep.
state at the time. I was like, man, if we beat them, we're gonna be on the map.
Oh
real
yeah,
quick.
definitely. I know.
Man,
I know me. I remember I started that game, and I know that I was like the assignment on Jermaine because in high school I was like this dog defender. Like that's who I was. Like I was a amazing defender. So I was put on Jermaine. Jermaine, yes, I'm saying Jermaine Jackson Jr. For all you guys out there who don't know who he is the son of Jermaine Jackson. He's a demon. He's a monster. So I had to guard him, and he was the first player. This real quick story. He's the first player I've ever guarded. I think he's the only player I've ever guarded to this day that did the. I don't know how to explain it. Like when you ride, like in the NBA, you see them like anytime they like get touched or like they're like dribbling, you touch them, they'll do the little fly their head back and act like they just got. He's the first player I've ever guarded, and I don't think anybody else I've ever guarded has done it. He did it. He sold it so perfectly. I remember one time he was driving up the sideline. I was guarding him like this. As soon as he felt my forearm, that man flew back, acting like he just got hit, but like the way he did it, like he kept control of the ball and just kept going, so I couldn't stop going. And like it was like he did it routinely throughout the game too. So he's like the only player I've ever had to guard. It made him easily. Him and Steve were easily the 2 hardest guys I've ever had to guard, and that's one of the reasons why like I always will remember going against him because he was the first and only player I've ever won against that like did that type of thing. That was when he did it.
He would sell it like Chris Paul.
Yes, exactly, precisely.
He would sell it like Chris Paul. He was good at that too.
Yes, it was crazy because he picked up 2 quick fouls on me doing it, and I'm like I haven't even touched
Yeah.
him. I'm not even really hitting them. So it was hard. So it was really cool looking back on it, guarding him. That's one thing I will say about playing where we played in our era of our class, is that we went against a lot of good players. We had a lot of good players ourselves, and we went against a lot of good players. Like me and Steve, our basketball teammate, Sean, he's in the NFL now. He's playing for the Buccaneers, Sean Bunting. We played with him. He was our teammate. Who else have we played against? We played against Jermaine. We played against, what's his name? I forget his name down at... Mike Weber. I remember what's it called. We were in the same Mike Weber who went on to play for the Cowboys, running back. Like we had a lot of good talent, and it was really cool for all of us to be able to play against each other and like witness all that stuff. So that was really cool. So I don't know, Steve. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on before we wrap this up? Anything else you wanted to say? Actually, no. I have something I want to ask you. What do you think that this will do for the Last Dance we're talking about, the documentary? What do you think this will do for people who didn't get to see Michael Jordan play? Because there's two sides to this. Because you already know our friend Deontay, and there's plenty of people like Deontay. Like we can't stand it, but he represents a big chunk of like I would say LeBron fans and just like a lot of fans in general. They may not be the majority, but there's a lot of them like him who are watching this documentary and like he played against these people. He's not that good. Look at the defense. Look at this. Look at that. He's trash. Blah, blah. There's people like that. And then there's also people like on this side who have never got to really see Michael play during his prime or back then in the 90s because we're all like 20. And so we didn't get to like see that. So there's people who are idolizing what they're seeing. They're like, man, this guy was great. This is great to see. I see why he was so great. Look at the aura he has around him. And then there's people like Deontay and all those LeBron fans who are like, oh, this guy sucks. Blah blah. This whatever. Which side? What do you think this is doing? Like for the majority of NBA fans, what do you think this is doing for people? You can choose that side, this side, or you can choose your own answer. What do you think this Last Dance documentary is doing for people who didn't get to see Michael Jordan play?
it definitely gives them an opportunity to appreciate just how great of a player he was, even like just especially because we didn't get to see him play and we've only seen LeBron. But I think this might give some of those like big time LeBron fans like, hold on a second, this guy was actually just like he was that good. That it because in my mind, LeBron's not even close. That's just me. That yeah. And I don't think that the debate should be MJ or LeBron. It should be MJ or Kobe. But that's just my point of view. I don't even think LeBron's reached Kobe yet. So, yeah, I think hopefully it gives, especially like the younger generation, a better appreciation of MJ and why we consider him the greatest to this day. And I think it will be like that for at least a very long time.
Yeah. So that's kind of like where I'm at with it too. What I'm going to take, what I think it's doing for people. Not even, honestly, I think it's great for people our age, our generation. But honestly, I think it's true. It could do more for the generation below us because if you think about it, we at least saw some of the 2000s like basketball. We not Jordan, but we saw Tim, we saw Kobe, we saw Shaq a little bit. We saw early LeBron, early Dwayne Wade. We saw Steve Nash. We saw all these players throughout the 2000s. So we had like we witnessed some of the older players. Maybe not Jordan all the way, but they still carried some of the play from Jordan's era into the 2000s. Mm-hmm. We still witnessed some of that. The generation below us, they don't know much about it at all. They don't even know nothing about the 2000s that much. Yeah. So if they barely know about the 2000s kind of basketball, they're definitely starting to forget Jordan already. So like I can see that already starting to happen where people are trying to push past Jordan and like not completely forget about him. Sorry for the dogs barking, everybody, if you can hear that. They're crazy. But maybe not forget Jordan, but like kind of like push past him and move on. Just like, oh, let's just talk about this right here. Let's talk about the 01 Lakers. Let's move on to the 2000s because he's getting older now. In the 90s are starting to get far away. Like they're not like, if you say 1999 to me, I think like 12 years ago. It's 21 years now. Like it's a.
I calculate everything to 2010 for whatever reason.
Exactly, same here. It's been a long time ago. So I think that this actually will do a great thing for the people younger than us by showing just how great Michael was, and like the aura that was around him, this like more than human figure that he was as a player. So I think it's doing a great job for all around audiences, and I feel bad honestly. I feel bad honestly for the people like our friend Deontay, and for the people that can't just watch I'm not even trolling either. I feel bad for those guys that they just can't like me personally, I haven't brought up LeBron in the group chat or anything. Like I haven't tried to compare this to LeBron or anybody else. I just want to witness, like, I feel bad that you can't just watch this and like just appreciate what you're watching. Like I'm sure in 20 years we're gonna get a LeBron James documentary. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna enjoy that too.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna enjoy watching everything, especially why he left Cleveland the first time and all. I'm sure we're gonna get something about all of that. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna enjoy all of it because everything doesn't have to be a competition or you downing.
People just have to bring up the
debate.
They everything. Have to. They can't help themselves.
Everything has to be a debate. Everything has to be LeBron or Jordan. Like even on the sports show, I think it might have the impact it was from like the sports shows because everything that they talk about, like they could be talking about football, all of a sudden we start talking about LeBron Jordan, everything always ends up in
month.
Everything ends up into that debate. So I really feel bad for people who can't just sit down and watch this and appreciate, even if you don't think Michael's the greatest. That Bulls dynasty was insane, and just watching this in general should be like a fun thing to do, and just like I don't get why people can't just sit back and enjoy what they're watching just for what it is. So that's just where I stand with it. If there's anything else you want to say about it, you can say it.
Nah, nothing really. I'm excited to see next Sunday.
I can't wait to see next Sunday. I'm sad that's going to end already.
Is it 2 episodes still that they're showing every Sunday?
Every Sunday 2 episodes. I believe next week's the last 2 episodes. So yeah, it's going to suck because we don't got nothing else to watch after that with this whole quarantine. So, yeah, it's going to suck.
I'm excited though.
I'm very excited. So, well, I think that's all me and Steve got for you guys today. I'm sorry for the dogs backing in the background and every now and then the camera like getting larger or whatever, but I did fix it. So, thank you, Steve, for coming on to the show. Really had fun.
Appreciate you
I
having
really
me.
had fun having you on. I'm gonna keep it a buck with everybody watching and Steve here. I like getting the writers on here. I like getting I'm gonna try to get coaches, more players, etc. But I really want to moving forward getting my friends on here who can provide something too. Because there's no point. For me personally, I like supporting my guys and I like bringing my guys with me. So why, like I said earlier, why get like a different guy who has great work ethic as a college player on here when I have a boy who can show you guys the exact same thing? Why go out my way to do that when I can just help? I can bring my friends on with me. So I'm going to probably do a lot more of this too. Like I said earlier, have Deontay on, who's a college football player. I tried getting Sean on here, honestly, actually, Steve. I talked to Sean, tried getting Sean on here. So that would have been fun. But I'm going to try to do more of this moving forward. I really appreciate Steve coming on. I had a lot of fun. As you guys can see here, here's his Twitter @ so if you guys want to go follow him, go do that. I couldn't have enough room to put your Instagram on here like you wanted, but go ahead and tell the audience what your Instagram is. They can follow you on there.
Yeah, you can follow me at Steelo_3. So it's STEELO_3.
All right, there you go. There's his Instagram. There's his Twitter right there. And I promise you guys, after this quarantine's over, if any of you guys question how great of a player Steve is, you guys can come to one of our hoop sessions. You can tell me if you can hang with Steve. I don't think you guys are going to hang with me, honestly. But if you guys think you guys can hang with Steve, you guys can come check it out because he'll wreck you on the court. So, yeah, thanks everybody for watching. It was a fun episode. Once again, I loved having Steve on. I hope I have another episode out soon with someone else as well. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up if you guys liked it. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this episode, or if there's anybody else you guys want to have on the show moving forward. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.